Hi there. Join me as I attempt to moderate a discussion between two commanders and past commanders of the American Legion Department of Minnesota. One has been a department commander of Minnesota. The other one currently, I believe, is an active commander of one of our districts. We have 10 districts that comprise the Department of Minnesota, which is basically the state of Minnesota within the American Legion. And the other one has not only been the department commander, but has been a post commander. And so they're bringing with them a wealth of experience and knowledge. And we're just going to sit down in a chat and talk about some of the dynamics that are involved in commanding within the American Legion. So thanks for being with us. You know, what type of a leader is a commander in the American Legion? Today we have two people that have been commanders at various levels within the American Legion. We've got Mike Ash, and he'll probably introduce himself a little bit more, but he has been a commander at different levels. We also have Mike Parry, who has also been a commander at different levels. And so they are giving us some of their time and their experience and are going to unpack a little bit about who are these commanders in the American Legion. So I don't know who wants to run it off. You're both named Mike. I don't know if you have monikers that you want to be called by.
I don't know who's older.
Age before beauty, brother.
Are you saying I'm the oldest one here? Oh, God. Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
This is what I've learned, and I hope you two agree. Before you do anything, get rid of the emotion.
Oh.
Get rid of your emotion. It's good to be emotional, but you have to control it so much when you're in a leadership position, because if you're showing emotions, if you're showing that you're getting upset, or in Army terms, pissed off, it changes everything that you're going to do. So I think if there is any one thing before you accept a position in leadership, like a commander, because there are a lot of things that go along with it, whether you're department commander, district commander, or post commander, you've got to be able to take, you know how they always say when you come home from work, take your work coat off and set it on the hanger and go in. I think you have to take your emotions off, set it at the front of that Legion or VFW or whatever door, and walk in there as somebody that is going to listen and show no emotions one way or the other, because you are the key person.
That sounds like a little bit of impartiality needs to be involved if you're a commander, where your emotions might tend to tell you where your biases are or preferences are.
Well, and I agree with that to a certain extent. Getting rid of all emotions is probably not good because we're not robots. And not only that, but I think when we're extremely happy because of our because of our members doing something great, or our committees just kicking butt, I think to get up there and emote the pleasure there is that they accomplish something, I think that's very important. Certainly not the negative emotions. Absolutely, you should keep those aside. Keep those at the door. Anytime, and it's kind of like along that political line that we run. We are nonpartisan. You can be as political as you want, saying that we need to pass these bills for veterans, this, that, and the other thing, but we've got to be strictly nonpartisan. So when it comes to something like the current e-tabs that are on the legislative docket this year, we've got to be pushing that thing full blast, and we've got to show our emotions that we are extremely serious about this, and we're extremely angry about them wanting to take away that money from not only American Legion, but for the communities that we serve.
Well, let me expound upon that, because
Yeah.
let me bring it right back down to a post commander. And of course, when I think about a post commander, and what I have seen as a past district commander, traveling around the first district and all of the different meetings I've been at. Number one, if you're going to be a commander, you better know Robert's Rules of Order. You better know how to run a meeting, and you better not be scared to hit the gavel, to stop conversation, to say, okay, we've discussed this enough, I believe, and call for a vote. You had also better know your bylaws of your post, because every post has different bylaws. Some posts will just grab the bylaws from national and put their information in. But every post has bylaws. And if you don't have that in your hand when you become commander, you shouldn't be commander, because you will never run a meeting right, because you won't know whether you're following the bylaws or not, because these bylaws tell you, hey, your executive committee is made up of these people. Okay, first vice, second vice, or some places their executive committee is just made up of 4 people. You won't understand, if you don't see what your bylaws say, that you are the CEO of that post. That means the buck stops with you. And Mike brought up gambling. We got 194, I believe, 196 American Legion posts that have gambling. How many of those commanders know that if something happens wrong with gambling, it's nobody else's neck but theirs, because they are the CEO, their name is on that. So if you don't know this, if you don't understand it, if you're just going to become a commander because you think it's a cool thing and you want that on your resume, I suggest you don't do it, because there's too many things that will come at you, from the smallest post to somebody like, the post, some of the big posts. Osseo, there's a prime example of everything that they have going on up there. Their commander's got to have his or her wits about him and understand the ins and outs, and realize that they can delegate a lot of things. But the bottom line is, as commander, you are everything from the CEO to the fiduciary responsible person for that post.
One of the things that you touched on, Mike Parry, was the CEO. And then you also were talking about Robert's Rules of Orders in a board meeting. Can either one of you talk a little bit about the position of the commander in a board meeting? Are they still the CEO?
Yeah, I think the commander is the CEO. He obviously is in charge. He's in front of the meeting. He's the one running the meeting, and that's why he needs to know the Robert's Rules of Order, because he's got to know how to read. He's got to know what to do when either asked a question or something gets out of hand, and he needs to bring a subject to a close. Even though he's the chief executive officer, he's got to understand that when you become the post commander, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it may sound that way, he's got a lot of responsibility. As Mike said, he's got so much responsibility, but his authority is very limited. He can't make a motion. He can't vote on a motion unless there's a tie. And he's got to be up there, and he's got to be running the meeting as a truly neutral party. And as a CEO, that's really tough. What makes it tougher is you're talking about an all-volunteer organization. If you were in a paid position, that would be great. You could tell people to be quiet, and they'd have to be quiet, or you could fire them. But you can't do that in an all-volunteer organization. As a matter of fact, you've got to almost treat them with kid gloves, because the fact of the matter is these people are all volunteers along with you. And if they decide, you know what, I'm just not really feeling this commander, and that's why the commander's really got to ingratiate himself with the people to to his members so that they look up to him and say, you know what, I like this commander. You know, he's there to he gives me feedback when I ask him. Um, he doesn't micromanage me. If I'm a member of a committee and I'm given a committee report, he's not there, you know, saying, well, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. He's telling me what he'll tell me in private if it's something serious, but he won't be correcting me from the podium because that's not his job. His job is to make sure that I'm doing my job, and when I do something good, I would hope that the commander will say, you know what, you're doing a good job. Don't just say, just don't stand back and say, I expect you to do this, so I'm not going to say you're doing a good job, because that's what I expect of you. You need to get in there and you need to let them know that this is important and this is what's the what the bottom line is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Mike, I'm gonna carry that out a little bit further. When we talk about understanding and running a meeting, you know, obviously there's a fear, because I think where I've seen most fear come from commanders I've talked to is that they don't know the ins and outs of their bylaws, and they don't know Robert's Rules of Order. And here's a prime example. How many times do you have to ask now, according to Robert's Rules of Order, if somebody nominates a person, how many times do you have to say, are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? You used to have to say it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
You say it once at the beginning. That's all you have to say. Or here's another prime example. And Mike, I know you've probably been through this many times. How many times do you get into a discussion and a vote when somebody tables an item?
Exactly. When it's
When you
tabled, that's it.
table an item, there's no discussion, there's no vote. Bam, gavel goes down, item tabled until next month.
Yep.
End of story, no further discussion. I've been at post meetings, well, they'll go on for half an hour trying to decide, well, should we vote for this table or we shouldn't? No. And that's what I'm talking about, Kelly, is understand Robert's Rules of Order. It's a quick, easy. I mean, it's kind of like, what was that yellow book that used to have dummies, things for dummies?
Well, they've
Right.
got they've got Robert's Rules for Dummies.
Yeah, and it's a quick, simple thing. It gives that person coming in as commander more confidence when they know the bylaws. Gives that person more confidence when they know what the Constitution says. Gives that person more confidence, and ultimately, when you're sitting up there, and in our case, had the adjutant finance Gary Boehm on my left, I had my chaplain on my right, and you're sitting up there, and everybody's focused on you. When you have that confidence and you're leading that meeting, the audience knows when you say, okay, that's enough. Or if you have to stop or slow somebody down, when you say it, they know that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to present yourself in that commander's role as the commander. And if they, like you said, if they know that you're in charge, they know you're in charge, because if they don't believe you, a word that you say, if you've diluted everything that you've said and this again goes to the characteristics and some of the traits of the commander, you've got to tell the truth all the time. One little white lie will just screw up your entire commandership. And
Yeah.
you
And
should,
the post.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's one of the places, I mean, the oath of office gives us some general ideas on what it is to be commander. Then the manual of ceremonies that the national puts out, that gives us others. But again, the Constitution and bylaws gets down to the specifics and lets you know this is how much in a quorum. How many people know that? I guarantee you go to a lot of these posts and they'll go, well, we only got 2 members, but let's go ahead and vote on this,
Right.
giving $10,000 to somebody. Yeah, you can't do that, Pally, because your bylaws say you got to have at least 20 for a quorum or whatever it is. So,
Right.
absolutely.
And change your bylaws if you're having issues. I mean, you can do that simply if you understand how to do it. And Mike, I want to go, you know, you I'm thinking about the others. When you decide you want to be a commander, you normally look for a first vice, second vice, adjutant, finance, chaplain. Uh, I don't know. When I've talked to some other commanders throughout the first district, I don't know that they really had a discussion with their first, second, with their team. Okay, that they would like to see run. I don't know that they really have had discussions on where do we want to go? What do we really want to accomplish here? What are the needs of our post? Granted, we beat to death the membership. We need members. I get that. But it's deeper than that. If we're a post that is ingrained and involved in the community, how do we sustain that? Where do we need to go? How can we tweak that? And a commander coming in should have folks around that commander that he or she can discuss and say, what do you think about this? Is this something that would be good? And if you become first vice, can you carry things out that I would like to do if I'm not there for a reason? It's as a commander, you have to have that team behind you, because it won't do any good if you become commander and all of a sudden you're finding that the auxiliary president is not on your side. The sons is questioning you. The riders is going, oh, that guy's an idiot. So there's this whole family atmosphere, Mike. Wouldn't you agree that
Oh,
you
absolutely.
really have to look at?
Yeah, and it's not only that, but when you're talking about the first and second vice commanders stepping up into their role, that brings the biggest point that we should push is that mentorship piece.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'm
mean,
glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
besides not, besides getting, you can have it written down 14 ways and tomorrow, but the fact of the matter is that you need to have somebody who's going to go there and talk to the sitting commander. And when you go back to some of our resources, some of our biggest resources are past commanders. Go to our district officers, go to our department officers. If you've got questions, if you want to know what it's like to be a commander, then that's who you should talk to, because those people know. I mean, I've been commander of several different posts, and there's, what did I say, 15,000 or 12,000 plus posts in Minnesota, in United States, and not 2 of them run the place the same way. Every single commander is different, and I guarantee you that when you talk to them, you could put a dozen commanders in a room, and you'd get them coming up. Everybody would come up with a new idea, because they'd go, "I never even thought of that."
Right.
So yeah, absolutely, that's exactly what it is. We've got to make sure that those people that are coming up behind us, those people who want to, take on the yoke of leadership, to talk to us first, let us know. And we'll be more than happy to sit them down and say, okay, this is what we're going over today. And when you're running a meeting, what's the most important thing besides the intuitive Robert's Rules of Order and knowing what your Constitution and bylaws are? Got to have an agenda. Some of these people walk up there and they got nothing in their hands. And I'm going, we're just going by memory, are we? Okay, this ought to run well, and it never does. So absolutely, we've got to make sure that those coming up behind us, those who want to take over leadership, that we're there to step in and help them. because, like you said, we could come in there one day, we might not show up for whatever reason, and again, we have to stress the fact that we're volunteers and that everybody's got something else to do. Absolutely, but we
I
want to
think you
make
bring up a good point, Mike, about meetings having an agenda. And I think it is so very important. And oh gosh, I have been at too many post meetings over the course of the last 3-4 years where they get together and number one, it seems like nobody really cares if we wear our covers anymore. I
Right.
get that.
Yep.
But what really bothers me is when they don't go through the preamble and they don't have a prayer. They don't recognize the POWMIA chair.
Right.
That's part of a meeting. That sets the tone that we're just not here having a cigarette and having a drink, just jabbing and jawing and saying, oh, that sounds good, let's do it. No, there is a way to run a meeting.
So there's a purpose to the commander.
Exactly. And the commander is going to set that tone. If the commander says, I want my team to wear their covers, how many people that show up do you think will start wearing their covers?
Yep, all of them.
Would hope so.
But it's got to be that commander that says, no, this is a meeting of post, in my case, post 228, Waseca, Minnesota. We are holding a meeting. And the people here, however there might be, 12, 14, 20, you people here at this meeting along with my team are representing 328 post members. You're also representing 280 auxiliary members. Oh, by the way, you're also representing how many SAL members? So it's important to set that tone when you start a meeting.
So commanders are the ones that set the tone. And in the American Legion, they're the ones that set the example and are to lead by example, is what I'm hearing you say. And the American Legion has certain values and has a mission statement that the commander is first and foremost the one that sets that example forward and continues it. When is a commander not a commander of a post or the district? Can either one of you kind of talk about that? Is if you're the commander of a small town, everybody knows you're the commander of that American Legion post. When are you not the commander? And how do you get to conduct yourself do you have free time?
When you're at home.
You're at home. In the privacy of your own home.
I think you have to be let me take it to a little higher scale.
Okay.
I found out back in 2010 when I became a Minnesota state senator and won the special election. I really found out how many people really were watching Mike Parry.
Oh.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Never in my life had I ever given, you think about, they're looking, being in radio and doing all this. You have these kids and stuff say, but everything you say, everything you do. If you're at a coffee shop and you're gossiping, oh my gosh.
Sure.
Oh my gosh. Now you're not a senator. And I would say the same thing is at a post meeting after the post. If you're sitting at a table with other post members and you're gossiping about this post member or that auxiliary or this or that, you're not a commander. You're not the leader. And you discredit yourself in the long run. And I learned back then that the only time that I really didn't have to be cautious was when I was at home by myself.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Right. It does.
Because there's eyes on you no matter what you do.
Right.
Yep, I agree 100%. Anytime
Yeah.
you're in that, when you're in that post or you're with the members, you've got to put on the highest amount of credibility you can, and you've got to carry that throughout, because whether you think member Joe Blow is a knucklehead or not, you can't say that. You
Mm-hmm.
can't even imply it.
Mm.
What you've got to do is make sure that, and when you're sitting, if you're sitting at the bar having a soda or something stronger, you have to make sure that you don't imbibe too heavily, because that's the first thing they'll do is say, "Well, he's a bar commander," because then all of a
Right.
sudden he's going to start, starting at the bar, he's going to start saying, "I'm the commander of this post," blah blah blah, and and that's another part, is that even though you're the commander, that doesn't mean you're in charge of the facilities. You have a facility manager for that. And if you come out there
Mm-hmm.
and say, this is what you're going to do because I said you're going to do it," you're messing with the wrong people, because these people are actually hired. These people are getting paid, and it's not your job to run those individuals, those paid staff. Your job
Mm-hmm.
is to run the post. If you see
Right.
something going wrong in the post, then you go to the manager that you probably hired, or you were part of the hiring process, and say, "Look, I saw this and I don't agree with it." And he or she might say, "Well, there's a reason for that," or they might say, "Well, thanks for letting me know and I'll fix it." But
Hmm.
the fact of the matter is that you're always a commander, but you've got to make sure that you walk that fine line between being a commander and being a dictator.
So
Right.
some of the character traits I heard, you mentioned trustworthy, honest, integrity. So these character traits are very important and probably always up front, whether you think people are watching you or not. People are always watching you when you're in a leadership position, and much so more as a commander. And that can get to membership, that could get to post participation. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, you've got to show your members respect at all times.
Mm.
You've got to be authentic. You have to have the integrity. If you have the integrity, they'll follow you. And they're all volunteers again, and it's hard to get volunteers to do things sometimes because
Right.
they've got other things to do in their life. But the
Sure.
thing is that if they respect you enough, if they respect the post enough, if you've made them understand what the meaning of the American Legion and what our mission is, then I think that you'll get a
Mhm.
lot more people standing up saying, "You know what? If you need a hand cooking breakfast, flipping burgers, whatever, I'll be more than happy to step in and help."
Yeah.
Well, and that brings that's why at the start of these post meetings, that's why I just feel it's so important that not only do we have the I don't know, pomp and circumstance or whatever you want to call it. Uh,
The
you know,
ceremonial aspects of it.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
think about this: when you're reading the preamble and you get to that last line where it says, "To consecrate and sanctify our comradeship by our devotion to mutual helpfulness." I mean, I think it's I've been at some post meetings where post members literally swear and curse at their leadership. That's
Oh,
totally uncalled for.
sure.
Totally uncalled for. I mean, we are here to help each other. We are here to grow our membership and help our veterans. And granted, I mean, there's a lot of times as a commander, Mike, I think you would agree that you leave a post meeting with bloodied inside cheeks and a severed almost tongue because you really just want to put that member down, shut him down or her down in front of everyone, but you can't. It's not the time and place. So you take it upon yourself to be composed, keep that emotion out of it, let people say what they're going to say, And at the end of the meeting, if you need to talk to a member, you do it privately. And it takes, and here again, Kelly, and I know you know this, it takes a certain person to be able to look another in the eye and say, based on what we witnessed tonight, based on what our bylaws state, and even based on what our preamble states, you were out of line. And that's not the way we can handle a post meeting.
Yeah.
You know,
The flip side of leading in a veteran volunteer organization is it's a great opportunity to learn leadership.
right.
I think, and the other piece of that is we're all veterans.
Right.
So every single one of us has been a leader, and most of us have more of a leader mentality, which to me adds another layer of complications, if you will. How do you lead leaders? And so being a commander seems to be a little bit more of a challenge in a veteran organization because you're leading leaders. And so you have to know how to navigate that and how to, equip other people and mentor them, as well as knowing how to get out of the way.
Right.
I would assume so.
Mentorship is so important. Bert Anderson here in Waseca at Post 228. He was my mentor. I was his sergeant at arms. I was his second vice, his first vice, and he mentored me along the way. And the majority of his mentorship was watch me, and I'd ask questions, but he'd just say, watch how the meetings go. Because there are so many personalities at a meeting. And he said, just watch how I handle it. He said, I have my goods and bads, but for the most part, and I think he was our longest running commander for Post 228. And still today, we talk once a week. And I ask him stuff, he's not commander anymore, but we talk about this. We talk about membership. We talk about things, but he was probably in the American Legion one of the best mentors I had, and he would constantly say, "Mike, don't take it personal.
Right.
If you take it personal, you won't make it. It'll drive you absolutely crazy."
One of the things that I've been experiencing or hearing a lot more, and I don't know historically if this is accurate, but the American Legion has this history of going through the chairs, if you will. You don't get to be a post commander unless you've been a membership or the first vice commander, second vice. Chaplains even involved in there, and I disagree vehemently when I think just anyone can be a chaplain. But and then when you get into the district and the department level, running through the chairs versus the right person for the jobs, we seem to be having a little bit of a discussion. I don't know how open it is of, can anyone become a post commander? Or it is a volunteer organization, but are there other people that are better suited towards specific leadership positions? It's a loaded question. We are being recorded.
No. But no, and that's true. But the problem is there's a couple of things there to look at, and that is when you're looking at running through the chairs. That's
right.
That's really a good thing, because as you go up through the chairs, you learn. That doesn't mean that you can't have been a member there for 20 years and never been an officer and just decide, you know what, I'd like to be a post commander. Now, it would certainly behoove the sitting commander and those officers to get that individual together and say, okay, let us know, we'd really, that's great. You want to be the commander? Give us some ideas on what you're looking at as far as the post, what you think it and what you think commander entails. Because we'd certainly like to get behind you, because everybody should have that chance, whether it's post commander, district commander, even department commander. You know, you should have some background. You should be able to do the things that need to be done. You need to be able to accomplish the mission. But again, you're guided by the Constitution and bylaws first and foremost, and you've got plenty of other things, including mentors, to let you know, I'll be there to help you, whatever you need. But if somebody just decides, I'm going to run for commander and have no idea what they're going to do, that's really a bad idea.
Even if in the civilian world, in their paid position, they're really good managers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even if they're good managers, it takes a really different kind of mentality when you're dealing with volunteers. Because when you're dealing with volunteers, you've got to be really careful, because if they say they quit, they're going to quit. And it's not like if you're a manager or something on an outside firm where you're getting paid and you're leading the company, and if you don't do your job, you're going to get fired, and you may have authority over these people, but again, the authority of a post commander is extremely limited, even though their responsibilities are massive.
Okay.
Senator Parry.
Boy, you can't imagine the discussions I have had on this topic. Of course, you two know that when I became district commander, I was nominated off the floor. And it was like a shakeup in the first district that wasn't supposed to happen. I personally believe no person should run unopposed. I totally hate the right of succession. I think it's wrong. Some people call it mentorship. I call it BS. Because, for an example, if I decided that this next convention, I wanted to challenge Carl Moon, who's running for commander.
Yep.
If I find somebody on the floor that wants to nominate me and somebody that wants to second me, that should be able to happen. Yeah. Because the battle of the good old boy syndrome is an evil that just turns younger veterans off.
So how
they don't want to get involved because, you know what? I know I could be commander. What the hell? I was a lieutenant colonel. I could be commander. And I understand. I do my research. Do I need to go through this chair to become a post commander or a vice commander? Or I don't agree with that. If a person, male or female, if a person believes that they can fulfill that position, they shouldn't be held back because, nope, can't run for commander because you haven't been a first vice yet. That's not right. I want somebody, I think of Abraham Lincoln, some of our presidents.
Came out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, he got shot. He lost so many times. He lost a lot more than he won.
You understand, we're looking in the American Legion. I'm looking for young folks to become leaders. And if we tell them no, and this gets into the whole realm of if we tell them, oh, yeah, you got to go to the Sweetheart Rally and we're going to take 6 hours of your beautiful Saturday for that. These younger veterans are not going to do that. And I don't want to hold them back any which shape or form. If somebody believes they can truly benefit that position, let them go for it.
One of the complications that we have in the American Legion is it is probably one of the most democratic organizations that exists because we all own it and none of us own it. We're all doing the work for others. and we want to benefit more than ourselves. And commanders are really the figurehead of what that epitomizes, or what that looks like, is what I hear you guys saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like it's complicated to be a commander, but also very fruitful.
Well, yeah, and it's not so much complicated. I mean, it's as
Oh, okay.
complicated as you want to make it.
Okay.
But but along with what Mike just said about the younger members, and going
Right.
back to talking about our meetings, that's
Yeah.
another really important thing. When you have a new member come to a meeting, whether they're a younger member or not, if they're a new member, somebody that's never been to a meeting before, and that meeting really, really sucks, then they're going to go, now I know why I've never come to these meetings before, and why I'll never come to another one.
Kind of like chaos, not keeping your emotions at the door. There's no
any
agenda.
of that. I mean, yeah, and I
Okay.
mean, even if it's just a meeting that doesn't accomplish anything, if you're
Okay.
having a meeting just to have a meeting, then you're gonna have people saying, "There's no reason for me to come out in the middle of February to a meeting, so that you can tell me that we're doing a good job, and that's it, and have a nice night." I don't need to do that. No.
Why do people want to be commanders? Is there a perk to being a commander in the American Legion?
No, you know
Okay.
what? I wanted to become a commander because I wanted to move forward what I saw were good things that Bert Anderson had been doing for 6-7 years. And he was open. He says, I'm getting tired. But I saw the good things when it came to activating membership, and the beautiful membership banquets we would put on, and the events that we would go out and host, and I wanted to continue to do that. Were there some changes that I believed that needed a little bit more of a strong arm? Yeah, there were some things that I felt needed to change, and I wanted to be in a position where I could articulate them in a position of leadership and see if it would go anywhere, see if the membership agreed. So as far as, we were, the one thing, people would agree or disagree, but the one thing that I recall between Bert Anderson and I, in our commanderships, we were openly aggressive when it came to members walking, and people in general walking through the front door of the Legion. If one of us or both of us were there, we made it a point to get up and say, "Hey, I'm Commander Mike," or "Hey, I'm Commander Bert. Thanks. Where are you people from?" Now, as I've traveled around, I can tell you that I know of only 2 places in the posts that I've walked into where I've ever had that happen. And those are the things that the commander really sets the tone. Would you agree with me, Mike? I mean, does that sound?
Absolutely, absolutely. And along with that, because the commander's not down at the post 24/7, I think it's important that he relays to his manager, whether it's restaurant or bar manager, his facilities manager, let them know that everybody that you hire needs to understand what the American Legion's about. They don't have to be able to recite the history of it, but if somebody comes in and goes, "Oh, the American Legion, that's kind of cool. What's this all about?" They can at least give them a brochure. They can give them a really short, brief. This is, what we are. Simply know you're eligible if you're honorably discharged after December 7th, 1941. But they've got to be able to convey our message, because too many times when I retired in '93 from the Air Force, I said the first post that I walk into in St. Paul that asked me to join, I'm going to join. Well, let me tell you, I walked into those posts so many times that they all knew my name, but they didn't know if I was a member or not. But they never asked a single question, and I ended up going into a little. I saw a ad in a local uh, neighborhood newsletter, and it said, "Join the American Legion because we care," and it sounded pretty cool. So I got involved with them, and that's where I've been since.
Oh,
But
very nice.
that's what we have to do is we've got to make sure any of our officers. When I was going to National American Legion College, one of the problems we were presented is there's a post right outside of a base in California, and they're really having trouble with membership. And so we all sat down and said, well, these are all real-time scenarios. So we called the post. And we asked the bartender, we said, are any of the officers there in the post? He goes, I don't know. Is a commander there or something? I don't know. I don't know what they look like. Okay, I think we found a basic problem right there. Because when those guys, you could have everybody in that base coming off and going into that post saying, yeah, I'd sure like to join. And they'd go, well, nobody's here to sign you up, so have a beer instead. And smile, and if somebody walks in that says something great. But that you're absolutely right, Mike. That's the biggest thing right there is that we have to make sure that when people walk in, they're welcomed. They know that they're welcomed, and we can help them any way we can.
Yeah. The American Legion doesn't discriminate based upon race, sex, religion, origin. We welcome any veteran that has served honorably. And you kind of touched on a few aspects of that. And the commander is the one that should be leading that way and to ensure that we are a fair place to be if we have a building or not, because not all post commanders have buildings, right?
Right.
Is there any parting words of wisdom that you would give someone that maybe wants to step out into a command position at any part of the American Legion? You've given a lot of it already, but
Well,
any
I would
parting
certainly
words?
say that if you want to, I would reach out to your local post, whatever your post is. If you want to become a post commander, reach out to Mike or I. That would be fine too. We'll certainly answer any questions we can, and we'll try to point you in the right direction. And shameless plug coming up. I'd certainly tell them that attending Minnesota American Legion College would be a great idea. So
That formal education where you meet with other people. And
absolutely, when you're meeting with other, and that's one of our biggest things at American Legion College is, as you guys well know, is that you get to mix it up with everybody around the state, and you get to know new people. You get to know different ways. You get to know better ways. So by all means, I think that's the biggest piece I can leave you with.
Yeah, thank you.
I
What
think
about
the
you?
biggest thing, if somebody's interested and you're already going to a post, just say, hey, I'm interested in being involved in leadership. And the person who steps forward is probably the person that will mentor you. And I think about that because that's exactly what happened to me. I came into Waseca, Minnesota, and I walked into the Legion, transferred my membership. This is 18, 19 years ago now, and said, I think I want to be involved. This looks like a great place. It looks like people are having fun. And lo and behold, there was Bert Anderson. And he says, okay. And that's what it took. If you let it be known, that one person will step forward. And I'm sure that's the person that's going to mentor you through your Legion career.
And real quick, that happened to me when I was still in the military. I was finishing my last duty assignment down in San Antonio. I'd been down there 3-4 years already, but when I got there, I started going to the local American Legion. And one of the past district commanders there came up and started talking to me and started telling me about the American Legion and what I didn't know. And pretty soon he sucked me into second vice, first vice, and then commander of the post while I was still in the military. I go, well, how does this work? He goes, it doesn't matter. You can still be active duty. I said, okay. So after my first year, beginning of my second year, I was sent over to Desert Storm, and everybody came up to me and said, what's going to happen now? You're going to be gone for 3 months. I said, that's what we have a first and second vice commander for. So,
sure.
I mean, and he gave me the greatest, I mean, he came to me and he said, it's something that he saw in me. I didn't see it in myself. He saw it in me. He kept on pushing. And that's what a lot of these mentors will do. That's what we should all do, is if you see somebody that you think can really do the job, walk up and talk to them and say, you know what? I think you'd be one of the great individuals to lead this post. And you don't have to take an officer position. You can lead it as a member, or you can get on a committee. So I think that's the most important part, is to find those people who are interested. If they don't come to you, go to them.
And, the American Legion is also a place that doesn't discriminate whether you served in the Air Force or the Army, the Marine Corps, Coast Guard, even the Space Force. And so,
no, but we do make them sit in certain areas of the post, especially if they're Air Force.
So depending on if you're a post commander who's in the Army, you might ask the Marines to sit in the back, maybe.
Well, every Marine needs an Army hero, so
So we all work together.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yes. And I know our mission statement in 2020 changed to strengthening the well-being of the veterans, family members in our community. And that's what we all do. And we want to all together work towards the well-being of our communities and our veterans. And we do that through our 4 pillars. And you've touched on them on different aspects, the children and youth, our defense, our veterans. And then what is the last one? I missed the one in there.
National security.
Americanism and
Americanism.
national security under defense.
Yeah.
And so it is a beautiful place to give of your time, skills, experience. And as it sounds like, being a commander is going to further enhance and develop your character in integrity, a little transparency, teamwork, developing teams, and then learning how to motivate. Is that about right? Thank you for your time. This has been a production of the Department of Minnesota's podcast, and it is available. And if you have any further questions, we're going to have also an email that you can reach out to if you have any further questions about any other education or mentoring that you would like to have. And so I thank you, Mike Ash, for your time. I thank you, Mike Parry, for your time.
You're welcome.